The phone buzzed for the fifth time, a blue light slicing across Mark's tired face in the small living room. His hot chocolate mug had gone cold. Lily, 8 years old, colored lopsided butterflies at the coffee table, her feet swinging like impatient pendulums. When she asked, "Who is it, Dad?" he tried to smile. He said, "No one important," but the screen wouldn't stop. Victoria. Fridays were the one slice of the week he saved for his daughter, a silent pact since Lily's mom had left without a note. But this Friday carried another date he didn't know. 5 years since Victoria's mother died. The sixth buzz came as a short message. "Please, I need help." Silence, stretched thin. Mark ran a hand through his hair, looking for an excuse that wouldn't bruise his little girl. Instead, he called the neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, a basil and advice kind of woman. When he hung up, he knelt by Lily and said, "Sometimes we help the people who least seem to deserve it, because that's how the world starts making sense again." Lily bit her lip, glanced at her butterflies, and nodded with one condition. "Come back and tell me the ending." The velvet lounge looked like an aquarium. Amber lights, thick laughter, glasses chiming like lazy bells. Through the window he saw her, Victoria, slumped posture, white blouse stained with wine like a heart that had spilled in the wrong direction. The bartender held her keys. She spoke too loudly, as if dignity could be kept by volume. When Mark stepped in, mint and ice burned the air. "She's my boss," he told the bartender, who raised eyebrows like a man who'd seen this movie before. He took Victoria gently by the elbow. In a flash of clarity, she asked why he would help someone who treated him so badly. Mark answered softly, as if speaking to a frightened animal, "Because it's right, and because everyone deserves a second chance." Across the street, someone watched. An executive, the eyes of a man who counts in digits, noticed the public stumble of the woman who closed deals. Things would get worse before they got better. In the car, Silence sat beside the metallic scent of fresh rain. Red lights raked across Victoria's face like cuts of light. At her building, the doorman's smile held an old understanding. Mark flushed. "It's not what it looks like." They rode up. The apartment was magazine perfect, black, white, chrome, no photos. Except one, stuck on the fridge like a stubborn exception. A younger Victoria with an older woman who had the same eyes, smiling a tenderness that spilled beyond the frame. "My mother," she said, barely air. 5 years today." Mark poured water and, for an instant, their fingers touched, fragile as porcelain. He told her he'd lost his dad early. Some days hurt like the heart keeps its own calendar. Before Comfort could find a seat, Victoria's phone buzzed. Richard Townsend, the biggest client. The color bled from her face. Mark suggested she ignore it, but the professional mask was already reaching for the stage. Her tone was firm. Richard's was wounded. Words like partnership, conduct, revisit the contract flew like stones. Mark held out a palm that asked for trust. Without knowing where the calm came from, he introduced himself. He explained Victoria had just received a devastating personal call and was being looked after. He proposed a Monday meeting, alignment of expectations, responsible expansion. The silence on the other end was a hospital corridor. Then, Richard's voice dropped 2 shades, without admitting it. "We'll talk Monday." "Early." Victoria stared at him with a mix of gratitude and shame. "You just saved my career." He shrugged, but inside felt the tremor of someone holding a building for a few seconds more. He set water and aspirin by her bed. A cold breeze pushed sheer curtains like the apartment was breathing. At the door, Victoria whispered, "Spent I'm sorry. For everything. And for the school presentation I didn't let you attend." Mark didn't answer. He'd heard apologies that evaporate by morning. In the elevator, mirrors multiplied his uncertain expression. He remembered small surrenders, Lily's flute recital, the little book project of butterflies who get lost and find their way back. He thanked the doorman and drove home, deciding to expect nothing from Monday, except the usual: frost, targets, silence. It tasted like reheated coffee when he eased his own door open. Mrs. Garcia, in slippers, left notes about a science assignment. "Bring something that shines." Lily slept, hair spread like pale seaweed, notebook open beside her. At the bottom of a page, 3 words in careful kid letters. "Happy ending, please." Mark tucked her blanket and promised in silence that he'd try. Monday morning forgives no one. Spilled cereal, a missing sock, a school note asking for a library donation. The city bus arrived before the kiss. The kiss raced to the bus steps. When Mark passed through the office turnstiles, the air conditioning greeted him with March winds. Colleagues whispered, and by his desk, an impossible scene: Victoria holding 2 coffees. "Good morning, Mark. Black, 1 sugar, right?" The cup steamed in his hands like proof the world sometimes shifts a single millimeter, and that's enough to fall into astonishment. The hallway paused. Mark followed Victoria to her office, braced for a trick. Inside, an envelope waited like both invitation and sentence. She breathed, voice less sharpened than he'd ever heard. "I remember everything about Friday. I spent the weekend reading your file, the projects you delivered even when I kept pushing, the requests I denied when your daughter needed you." She set the envelope down. "This is a promotion to Senior Creative Director. 40% increase. Flexible schedule. You report to me, with autonomy." Mark stopped his breath and set the cup down because his hands shook. She looked toward the window where the morning shattered into squares on the building beyond. "I confused hardness with strength. I bricked up my pain until I forgot who I was before it." She turned. "Thank you for driving when I could barely walk." Knuckles rapped the door. Lucy, Victoria's new assistant, announcing that Richard had confirmed an 8 a.m. meeting. The ghost of the account hovered like a summer cloud, pretty and dangerous. The coffee said, "Brief peace," but a new problem was already knocking with a silk tie. Mark looked at the time, at the envelope, at the cup still releasing steam. He thought of Lily and something that needed to shine. He remembered the simple bracelet she wore for courage at recitals, translucent beads that turned into morning in the right light. He pocketed the thought. The day had barely begun, and the old walls of the office felt a little less tall. What he didn't know was that the meeting with Richard wouldn't be the next obstacle, but the bridge to something neither he nor Victoria was ready to admit. The monitor's glow reflected in Victoria's office glass, throwing a version of herself on her face. Maybe younger, maybe just more tired. 8:14 a.m. pulsed on the clock, and Richard Townsend blinked in the conference app. She inhaled. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone in a crisis. Mark sat beside her, still unsure if this new dynamic was real or a dream that would end with the next demand email. "Ready?" Lucy asked, dropping a folder. "As ready as anyone before a trial," Victoria answered, a brief smile that didn't reach her eyes. Richard's voice filled the room the moment the call connected. "Ms. Winters, I don't usually delay decisions, but Mr. Reynolds convinced me to hear you out." Victoria shot Mark a quick look, the look of someone who recognizes the hand that held the wheel in a storm. "Thank you, Richard. And I should thank Mark, too, for reminding me of something I forgot. Companies are built of people, not numbers." Mark blinked. Her usual script would be metrics, timelines, results. But there was a new pause between sentences, the kind that happens when a heart is open. She presented a repositioning plan and, this time, let Mark walk through the creative spine. The man who, months ago, couldn't finish a sentence under her gaze now spoke steady. When he framed rebuilding trust as the central theme, Victoria heard the double meaning and almost smiled. Richard went quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Feels like new energy over there. I like it. You've got 6 months. Let's see where it goes." The soft click of the call ending echoed like a suspended verdict. And for a second, Victoria thought she might cry. She didn't. She just turned to Mark and said words no one at the firm imagined hearing from her. "Thank you for lending me your courage." Before he could answer, Mark's phone buzzed. Message from school. "Lily is sick. High fever. Please pick her up." The ground shifted. He stood, panic already in his eyes. "My daughter. I have to go." Once, Victoria would have checked her watch and talked deadlines. Now she simply nodded. "Go. And if you need anything, call me. I want to help." He hesitated, caught in the old reflection of the ruthless boss. "You don't have to." "I know," she said, cutting gently. "I want to. Let me try to be someone different." The words hung in the air long after he left. The hallway felt longer than ever. Mark crossed the city, traffic boiling around him, heart beating to the red light rhythm. At school, Lily lay in the nurse's room, pale and heavy-eyed. She smiled when she saw him. "Daddy, the teacher said heroes show up right on time." Mark took her hand, guilt and tenderness rising. "Heroes get delayed sometimes, never lost," he whispered, kissing her forehead. At home, while he cared for Lily, the phone rang again. "Victoria. How is she?" No command in her voice, only real concern. "Better. Sleeping now. Can I stop by later? I made soup. It's my mother's recipe." Silence. The fridge photo flashed in his mind. "Sure, you don't have to." "I know," she said, a smile audible. "But I'd like to. Maybe I need to too." That evening, rain drummed the windows as the clock slid past 7. Victoria arrived, hair gathered without ceremony, the same hint of jasmine that at the office announced authority. Here, it smelled like home. "She's asleep," Mark said, stepping around toys. Victoria took in the small domestic chaos with nostalgia and unease. "When my mother died, I gave away everything of hers. I thought it would hurt less. The empty made it worse." Mark poured tea. "Pain doesn't disappear with silence. It just moves." For a moment they listened to Lily's steady breath from the bedroom. "She looks like you when she sleeps," Victoria whispered. "There's peace on her face." "Peace is what's left when love does the heavy lifting," he said. She laughed softly. "You talk like a writer." "I am. I'm just missing the courage to publish." She ran a finger along a row of notebooks, one title in Lily's scrawl: "Dad's Stories to Dream Better." "I think the world needs that more than it needs another marketing campaign." Their laughter was quiet, like they were afraid to wake the child. At the door, Victoria paused. "Thank you for letting me see who you are outside work. I didn't know how blind I'd become." He wanted to answer, but words felt small. He nodded. When the door clicked shut, something startled him. He was beginning to wait for the sound that would bring her back. Days followed with a lightness the office didn't recognize. Victoria's emails grew shorter, clearer, meetings tighter. Mark wrote at night when Lily slept, without the weight of always failing someone. Sometimes his phone lit with a simple text. How's her fever? Or, sent Lily a book, check Chapter 3. Small signs of a newly built bridge. One rainy morning, Lucy stepped into Victoria's glass office holding an old-fashioned letter with yellowed edges. Came by regular mail, can you believe it? From St. Luke Community Hospital. Want me to leave it here? Victoria nodded and waited for the door to close. She read, Dear Ms. Winters, as we mark 5 years since the passing of Mrs. Anna Winters, we are inaugurating the oncology floor reading room in her name. We also have personal effects in our archive, a notebook, letters, and an envelope addressed to you. If you wish, come by before the ceremony. Dr. Helen Duarte. Hospitals had been corridors she'd avoided, but the letter held an offer of ending or beginning. Victoria reached for her phone almost without thinking. Mark, could you come with me this afternoon? It's about my mother. He didn't ask for context or calendar. He just said, of course. St. Luke's lobby smelled like alcohol and old coffee. Pale walls, measured footsteps. Dr. Duarte appeared with the smile of someone who knows stories behind lab coats. She hugged Victoria with gentle efficiency. You disappeared, dear. But it's good to see you. We've been building a new space, and your name is everywhere. She led them to a corridor where a plaque waited under a cloth. They stopped at a glass room. Low shelves of books, bright poofs, a starry rug. Letters ghosted on the glass already showed through. Anna Winters' reading room, staying close through stories. Your mother read to other patients when she had breath, Dr. Duarte said. And when she didn't, someone read to her. That's where the room began. Someone? Victoria frowned. The doctor smiled at Mark, unaware how right the gesture would land. A volunteer came every Tuesday night, a bookseller, a binder. What was his name? Ah, yes, Sebastian Reynolds. The world narrowed. Mark had to sit. Sebastian. That was my father. The silence wasn't empty. It brimmed with recognition finding its place. Doctor. Duarte continued gently. He arrived with repaired books, read aloud, did voices. Your mother loved it. One night he brought a notebook and said, Mrs. Anna, your daughter will want more than recipes. She'll want to hear your voice when the missing gets loud. Write like you're talking to her. She opened a plain box. Inside, a navy notebook with a tired elastic and an envelope in Anna's firm handwriting. For Victoria, open when you stop running. Beside it, 2 letters, one in Sebastian's hand. Mark touched the notebook's edge like rediscovering an old photograph. He wanted to laugh and cry at once. My dad. I had no idea. Dr. Duarte laid a hand on Victoria's shoulder. He talked about a boy who loved being read to and who'd grow up to write his own. He said the strongest people are the ones who read to each other when breath is short. Victoria held the envelope with trembling fingers. She didn't open it. Not there. The notebook, yes. On the first page, Anna's hand. Daughter, this is the soup. Not the broth, the stirring. Slow, unhurried, until the house smells like a hug. Victoria laughed quietly, a new sound of relief. She turned pages of recipes and short notes. If you ever work too much, go to the window and breathe. Read a chapter before you decide. Between them, a note from Sebastian taped in. Anna, if strength runs low, I'll read. If words run out, I'll make some. What can't run out is your voice for your girl. S. Mark knew the signature. He knew the line his father used when life snagged. The important rarely announces itself. We only notice later. He swallowed the urge to say he'd be proud, because some sentences need their right time. Thank you for keeping this. Victoria said, wiping the corner of her eye. Keeping is loving the future, Dr. Duarte smiled. And there's a photo. From the archive, she brought a picture. Sebastian with a book open. Anna leaning toward him, a small smile at her mouth. In the glass, Mark and Victoria's reflections hovered near the image, as if, just for a breath, they belonged in the same frame. On the drive back, the city felt smaller. Victoria held the envelope on her lap. Your father. He was family when I had none. Her voice was simple, unadorned. And you did the same for me. I threw so many stones in your way. Stones make steps, Mark tried to smile. My dad said that when I'd complain. He must have talked a lot, she said. They both laughed, loosening the knot. He did. It was how he stayed. They parked outside Mark's building. Upstairs, Lily drew on a fogged window with her finger. She saw them and waved. Victoria looked at the envelope again, caught her breath. Can I open this inside? Like asking permission to enter my own grief. In Mark's old tile kitchen, water warmed on the stove. Lily held up a drawing, 3 people hand in hand under a tree with tiny heart leaves. Is this us? Mark asked. It's us when we're not scared, Lily said, very serious. Victoria smiled and sat. The envelope waited. She ran a nail under the seal. Inside, a small key and a letter. My girl, if you opened this, you chose to stop. The key is for Unit 31 at Harbor Storage on Mercer Street. I stored what I thought would hurt. Maybe it won't anymore. And if it does, that's okay. Pain comes and passes. If a kind man read to me while you worked, it was because I wanted life to be more than the hours left. Take what feels light. Leave the rest. I love you. Mom. Victoria pressed the letter to her chest for a beat. I spent 5 years running from a door with my name on it. Mark grabbed his coat. Harbor Storage closes at 8. We can make it if we go now. Lily stood with the authority of someone who writes her own happy endings. I'm coming. We're a team. Unit 31 was at the end of a narrow corridor that smelled like paper and old rain. The key turned with resistance, as if requiring ceremony. Inside, a metal shelf, 3 boxes, a leather suitcase. In one box, a bundle tied with red ribbon and a note. For when the walls fall. Victoria opened it like air returning to lungs, an apron stained with sauce, a childhood album she'd sworn was gone, and at the bottom, a hand-bound book, Stories to Dream Better, the exact title Lily had written weeks earlier without knowing. On the inside cover, another hand, Sebastian's. Anna, your girl will grow. Someone must remind her that courage isn't being unafraid, it's going with the fear. If she ever meets my son, let him know. You taught me that reading is another word for love. Mark traced the letters and felt his father in his fingertips. He knew you and your mother better than I imagined. Victoria closed her eyes. A tear slid slowly. Not collapse, consent. The first honest crack in the armor. Not a cave-in, a slit where light enters. Lily, wandering like a map reader, found something in a brown envelope. Passes for a mother-daughter cooking class, never used. Can we use them now? She asked, as if time obeyed desire. We can, Victoria answered, laughing and crying at once. We'll make Mom's lasagna one of these days. With too much cheese, the way you like. Back at Mark's place, they cooked the soup from page 1. Victoria stirred slowly, just like the instructions. Lily tasted and declared, "Smells like a hug." They laughed, and the sound hovered like steam over the pot. When Lily fell asleep, Mark and Victoria stood on the balcony. The city, far below, knew nothing and somehow approved, its lights blinking. "Thank you for today," Victoria said. "I used to think courage was never breaking. Turns out it's breaking the right way." Mark held her gaze longer than the clock would allow. "My dad always said we don't choose the cards, just how we read them." "And how do you read them?" she asked. "Out loud," he said, "for whoever needs to hear." Her phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. The message was simple. "Ms. Winters, my name is Julia Navarro. I was with your mother the night she chose to stop treatment. I owe you a conversation I delayed for 5 years." Victoria held her breath. The past hadn't ended at the storage unit. It was knocking, this time with first and last name. She showed Mark. "Want me there?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, but first..." She picked up the hand-bound book and gave it to him. "Read me the first story, so I can remember how a voice returns." Mark opened. The first line was simple. "Sometimes the shortest road to someone is a chapter." He began, and for a long moment, all that existed was a voice rebuilding a home from the inside. Morning came pale, like the sun hesitated behind clouds. Victoria stood by the window, phone on the table, Julia's message still glowing. 5 years of silence had its own weight. Not forgetfulness, but fear. She typed, "Today works. Tell me where." The reply was instant. "Horizon Cafe, 4 p.m. Back table." Mark arrived with croissants and the patient smile of a man who respects the other's timing. "It's today, isn't it?" Victoria nodded. "Today I find out what Mom didn't want to tell me, and maybe what I didn't want to know." Horizon Cafe sat on a tree-lined hill, windows open to the gray afternoon. Cup and steam sounds wrote a soft soundtrack. Victoria walked in first, short, contained steps. Mark followed a pace behind, close enough to catch her, far enough to let her breathe. A gray-haired woman stood, tired eyes, steady kindness. "Victoria?" The name sounded like both memory and forgiveness. "Julia Navarro," Victoria said, reaching out. "You were with her." "I was a volunteer nurse at St. Luke's. I was your mother's friend. She was impossible, in the best way. Stubborn enough to cook for other patients when holding a spoon was a victory." Victoria tried to smile. Her throat narrowed. "She stopped treatment. I never understood why. I called it quitting." "It wasn't," Julia said, stirring her coffee, spoon matching the rhythm of her words. "It was a choice. Your mother knew time was short. She decided to spend it living, not only surviving. She didn't tell me. Because you still needed anger to keep going." Julia called her daughter without asking permission. Sometimes love overprotects. She knew you'd try to talk her into staying. She didn't want your last memory to be a fight. Silence fell, heavy. Mark sat still, hands folded on his knee. "She asked me to stay through the end," Julia said. "She said, when she's ready to hear me, give her this." From her bag, Julia took out a small USB drive wrapped in blue ribbon. "Recordings. She talks to you. Stories, advice, even recipes. A voice for when you'd need one." Victoria held it like a living inheritance. "Why now?" "Because you finally opened the envelope. And when I saw the reading room news, I knew you'd stopped running." She waited 5 years. "Some mothers wait forever," Julia said with a sad smile. "Not all of us get found at the right time." That night, back at Mark's, Lily slept, spent from school. The city whispered outside. "Want to listen?" Mark asked. "I do, but promise you'll stay?" "Until the last chapter." They pressed play. The voice was warm, a little rough, unmistakable. "Hi, my girl. If you're hearing this, it means I got what I wanted, to leave you with longing, not with guilt." Victoria's hand covered her mouth. Her breath trembled. "I know you think work was my rival, but I saw love in everything you did. Sick love like me. A love afraid to lose. When I met Mr. Sebastian, he taught me something I never want you to forget. We don't cure pain. We learn to care for it. Care for yours, daughter. And when a good man shows up, don't run. You'll know him by the way he holds his silence." Victoria looked at Mark. He didn't look away. He said he had a son with watchful eyes who saw beauty where others saw routine. If that son ever crosses your path, trust him. The Reynolds turned pain into tenderness. Tears slipped without sound. Mark offered his hand. She took it. "And please cook. With people, not for them. Love is a thing we make together." The file ended. The next one was only a laugh. Hers. Victoria closed the laptop and let the crying come, unguarded. Mark held her without words. Between sob and breath, she murmured, "She knew. She knew even that." "So did your father," he said. "Maybe they made a pact, somehow, to help us find each other." They stayed until their breathing matched. Days later, the Anna Winters reading room opened at the hospital. Children in bright headscarves listened to volunteers read. Victoria, in a white apron, read from Stories to Dream Better. Mark and Lily sat recording every word. Sometimes love arrives disguised as insistence, or as a midnight plea for help. Sometimes it doesn't come to save. It comes to remind. Applause. Light slid through the glass and rested on the three of them like an invisible blessing. Outside, Lily took Victoria's hand. "Aunt Vicky, does your mom live in this book now?" "She lives here." Victoria touched the girl's chest. "And a little in every story we're still going to tell." Later at the park, sunlight finally cut the gray. Mark opened the Navy notebook to a blank page. "So, what do we write now?" Victoria looked at him, then at Lily chasing butterflies. "I think now comes the chapter with the hardest title, which is Happiness." Mark laughed. "My dad used to say happiness is this, when pain doesn't need to hide anymore." She leaned in, forehead to his. "Then let's stop hiding." The kiss came steady, grown, not escape, but arrival. The kind that doesn't end a story. It lets the story breathe deeper. Epilogue, 2 years later. On the shelf of the neighborhood bookstore, a new title, Stories to Dream Better, by Mark Reynolds and Victoria Winters. Dedication. For Anna and Sebastian, who read to each other when breath was short, and taught their children that love doesn't die, it just changes voices. Behind the counter, Lily helps wrap books, smiling at customers. Outside the window, Mark and Victoria watch. "You thought she wouldn't like the title," he teases. "I did," Victoria says. "Now, I know she would have chosen the same." A couple comes in asking for a gift that speaks hope. Lily hands them the book with both hands. "This one does. It's by people who found their way home." Sunset turns the glass to gold, and inside the voice that began it all, a mother's, a father's, the voice of those who loved and stayed, echoes softly in memory. Sometimes the shortest road to someone is a chapter. What lesson did this story leave you with most strongly? Which city are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. This story reminds us that true energy comes from within. the kind that renews us every day. If this story touched your heart, check the pinned comment to discover products that inspire renewal and balance. Leave a like and subscribe to join us in our next story.